So as we jump into the 7th chapter of Ketubot, we're going to deal with situations where one party or the other essentially breaks the marriage contract. And interestingly, we're going to begin with, I haven't counted, but I think 6 Mishnayot that deal with breakage on the part of the man. And there's 1 Mishnah that deals with breakage on the part of the woman. So it seems as though the situations that the Mishnah is concerned about are very much on the male side. Whether that reflects psychology then or today, I don't know. But let's jump into the Mishnah. Someone who vows that his wife shouldn't have any benefit from him. And of course, that prevents him from providing food. He's obliged to maintain her, right? So he can't, the basic condition of the ketubah is he has to maintain. So if he vows she can't have any benefit, he's immediately in breach. Ad shloshim yom yamid parnas. For 30 days, he can appoint a provider. In other words, he can appoint someone else to take care of her. The Talmud goes into a little bit of pilpul as to how he does this, because if he physically appoints a provider, maybe she's still benefiting from his possessions. But anyway, let's say he arranges silently for someone to maintain. So for 30 days that works. Yater miken yotzi v'yitain ketubah. If this situation lasts for more than 30 days, he has to divorce her and give her a ketubah. Rabbi Yehuda is going to give him more time, actually. Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'Yisrael chodesh echad. Rabbi Yehuda said, look, okay, 1 month for an Israelite, he can actually hold on for a whole month if he's an Israelite. So actually, Rabbi Yehuda is going to let him hold on for a whole month, but right until the end of the 2nd month. And then he has to divorce and give her a ketubah. The halacha, by the way, doesn't go according to Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yehuda is going to go on to say, Uva kohanim shnai yekayem. Among priests, he can actually keep going for 2 months. Ushlosha yotzi v'yitain ketubah. But if this priest hangs on until the end of for 2 months, let's say the beginning of through 3 months, he has to divorce her and give her a ketubah. Why do priests get longer? I think it's because an ordinary guy, an ordinary Israelite, if he divorces his wife in a fit of anger, he can perhaps remarry her later, the next day, the next week. So there is there's a possibility of reconciliation after divorce, but the priest isn't allowed to marry a divorced woman. So for a priest to divorce his wife, that really is that's an irreparable breach. So that's why Rabbi Yehuda gives the priest longer. But the halacha doesn't go according to Rabbi Yehuda. And we'll see a parallel Mishnah where something is, but something which seems to operate much more. Now the timescale is going to be much shortened. Someone who vows that his wife shouldn't taste, 1 out of all the fruits. In other words, a certain kind of fruit. So this doesn't seem to be a question of economic sustenance here, because she can eat all the other fruits, but she can't eat this fruit. So one way of thinking about it is that this is more like emotional abuse. And the Mishnah rules, the Talmud says that the Stam Mishnah here is called Rabbi Meir. The Talmud, the Mishnah rules Yotzi v'yitain ketubah. He divorces her, he gives her a ketubah. There's no time limit here. Rabbi Yehuda is going to give him a day. Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'Yisrael yom echad yekayem u'shnayim yotzi v'yitain ketubah. Rabbi Yehuda says, look, if he's an Israelite, he can hold on for 1 day, and for 2 days he divorces her and gives her a ketubah. And then similarly for priests, u'vakohanim shnayim yekayem u'shlosha yotzi v'yitain ketubah. And among priests, they can hang on for 2 days, but the 3rd day he has to divorce her and give her a ketubah. And the Talmud, by the way, raise a question at this point. It's not possible for a person to make a vow about someone else's behavior. So the first Mishnah, where he vows she shouldn't have any benefit from him, okay, we can understand that. But the second one, how can you vow about the actions of someone else? The Gemara actually suggests that he has vowed not to taste a certain fruit, and he has heard it but has failed to annul it. And remember, the husband has the husband has the right to annul a wife's vows. And the Gemara says, the failure to annul this vow is in some way a sign of complicity. He's responsible. And for that reason, he has to give her ketubah. But it's an interesting case, and it's a boundary case. It is actually easier just to read the Mishnah in the pshat, the Mishnah, rather than the Gemara interpreted. And then the third case, we're going to see a bunch of these cases, but we're only going to deal with 3 today. Hamadir et ishto shelo titkashet ve'echad mikol haminim. Someone who vows that his wife shouldn't adorn herself with a certain kind of ornament, or with one kind of ornament. Yotzi ve'itein ketubah. He has to divorce her, and he has to give her a ketubah. And this really does feel very much like some kind of emotion, what we today would call emotional abuse. So it's fascinating that this case comes up in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi is going to make a distinction between different kinds of women, actually. Rabbi Yossi Omer, ba'aniot shelo natan kitzvah. Rabbi Yossi says this applies to a poor woman where he hasn't given a time limit. In other words, the presumption is if he said, oh yeah, you can't adorn yourself for a week or something like that, or let's say some time period, the assumption is that a poor woman who doesn't adorn herself very much would somehow get through that period. I think the Gemara mentions actually a maximum of 12 months, which is a long time. And then the Mishnah continues, Uva ashirot shloshim yom, with rich ones, 30 days. In other words, a rich wife is used to adorning herself all the time. So at the end of 30 days, this kind of passes the boundary of acceptability. And at the end of 30 days, he has to divorce her and give her ketubah.